This is Feminist Wellness, and I'm your host, nurse practitioner, functional medicine expert, and life coach, Victoria Albina. I'll show you how to get unstuck, drop the anxiety, perfectionism, and codependency so you can live from your beautiful heart. Welcome, my love. Let's get started. Hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. I am beyond delighted, truly, to share my recent conversation with Coach Molly Goodman with you. Molly is such a powerhouse. She's an amazing human, an amazing coach, and I was so fortunate and lucky to have her in the inaugural class of Anchored, Overcoming Codependency, my 6-month somatics, thought work, and breath work course. And we had a beautiful time in our 6 months together, and she's been a part of the alumni network since then. And we had a really lovely conversation about her transformation, about everything that brought her into Anchored, the transformation and change that she made while in the program, and where she's at now, which is, oh my gosh, such an inspiring, beautiful place. It's just so amazing to compare where she was in life before Anchored and where she is now. It's mind-blowing. And I'm so thrilled to share it with you really as an example of what's possible. Because I know when I was rolling around, for 30 years in my own codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing thought habits, when I was in that functional freeze in my nervous system and was so disconnected from my own body, my own felt experience, there weren't models of what was possible. I didn't really know that this could be overcome. I didn't realize that there was like a there, that it was possible to live life in a better way, in a more connected, embodied, grounded way. I didn't know that better communication was possible. I didn't know that following my dreams was possible. I was just doing what I was taught to do. I was living in a way that I thought would get me the validation that I was constantly looking for. And having found my own way through, it's just so beautiful to be able to share everything I've learned in my 20 years in health and wellness. Can't believe I've been doing anything for 20 years. And everything I've learned in my training in somatics through the Sensory Motor Psychotherapy Institute with amazing mentors like Jane Clapp, and my training as a master certified life coach with the Life Coach School, plus my own growth, my own experience. Sharing all of that is just such a gift. And I'm absolutely grateful for the privilege and honor of getting to do so every day of my life. I'm so grateful to be able to live life on the other side of all those painful survival stories from my youth and all those survival skills. I honor them, of course, for what they are. I'm grateful for them. They got me so far. And I'm so glad to have the tools I have now that have gotten me to a place I'm really glad to be in. So, without further ado, I do love a do, I'm delighted to share this conversation with the remarkable Miss Molly Goodman. Well, hello, Molly.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy to be talking to you right now.
I am so thrilled that you're here. Thank you so much.
I can't even begin. I sometimes think about the fact that I started this journey with you over 2 years ago now, and my brain can't quite comprehend both how fast and how slow time is. Like, right? I don't understand, what is time? Seriously. And just, it's really special to be able to come here and speak with you and just kind of go into what the past couple of years have been like since I came upon your work and decided to join Anchored. And I'm just excited to share that with you and your beautiful followers and podcast family and everybody. And so excited to dive into all of that.
Yay. Well, before we do that, would you mind introducing yourself, sharing your pronouns, doing a land acknowledgement? Tell the good folks what you do, because that's exciting and part of your Anchored journey.
It sure is. So, hello, my name is Molly Goodman. My pronouns are she, her. I live in beautiful Washington, D.C., which let's see if I can get the acknowledgement correct. I believe it is Nacotch Tank, I believe is what it is. But I'm originally from the Boston area, Boston, Mass, the Ponkapog, Pawtucket area in Massachusetts for some more land acknowledgement. And I am a life coach, and I work primarily with folks around things like those big old issues of body image and self-acceptance and self-trust and honoring your body exactly where it's at, no matter your size, and just fighting the good fight against that good old fun thing called diet culture. And really all of that work I've sort of been building on for a long time, but really started to blossom and come to fruition. And I understood what my purpose was as a coach after being coached, after working with you, Victoria. And, I think it was about a month into my journey in Anchored when I messaged you and I said, hey, I think I want to be a coach. And you were like, good. I've been waiting for that since the second I talked to you. It was like, cool, we're on the same page. And I just felt so right. And I've been doing it ever since. So for the past couple of years now. And in addition to the other things I do, I work in the performing arts and the nonprofit arts field. I've been doing that for ages. And I love sort of the blending of creativity and the art with coaching and finding ways to help humans of all shapes and sizes figure out how to be more present in their lives and, kick diet culture's butt. That's what I'm all about.
I love it. I love it. Take that, patriarchy.
Yep.
Yeah. So if we zoom back, can you tell us about where you were in your life? What was going on? What were your struggles that led you to join Anchored?
Absolutely. So I think, if I go back even a little bit further, it was fall of 2019. And having grown up in a very codependent household, struggling with that for quite some time, I didn't really ever have the language for codependency. I didn't quite understand what that meant. I think there's a lot of, you hear about codependency in particular when it comes to media or movies or TV, and it's sort of this version of it where it's like, well, these two people are inseparable, so they're codependent, right? But there's not a lot of nuance in the conversation around it. And in the fall of 2019, I was with my then boyfriend, and out of nowhere, we'd been together at that point for about 7 years. And out of nowhere, he just said, I need to take a break. And we were living together, and I was devastated. And it sent me into this sort of tailspin where I ended up Googling codependency, and lo and behold, found you and found the podcast. And I consumed pretty much as much of it as I could immediately and just really dove into it. And it gave me language, and it gave me an understanding of, okay, here's where maybe my struggles can be ironed out. I can understand it. I can look at it, and I can also start to maybe do a little something with it. And so I started doing that and listening and taking note and really giving myself space to figure it out. From there, we all know what happened in March of 2020 with COVID and everything happening there. And I was very lucky to retain my full-time job, but I also was very scared and very lonely and not quite sure where my life was going. And of course, the stars aligned again, and you were put on my path again with the form of your webinar all around overcoming codependency. And it just was everything that clicked. It all clicked together. And we had our chat, and I realized, there's never going to be a right time per se to put yourself first, but I felt like that was my time. I was unhappy. I was struggling. I was so focused on everybody else's happiness, so concerned with making sure that everybody else was okay. And yet I didn't know how to feel okay myself. And that's where this amazing work just sort of all came together at the right time for me.
Yeah. How was codependency showing up in your relationship back then?
So in a couple of ways, I think the thing with codependency is that it's not a one-way street. It's definitely a two-way street. I think my ex and I were very much enablers of codependency. He was very much the hero, and I was very much the sort of needy victim, quote unquote. It was very much this space where I allowed a lot of things to just kind of slide by. I didn't speak up. I didn't share my truth. When things hurt my feelings, I kind of just let them go. And I also wasn't getting my needs met because I was so focused on being the good girlfriend or being the one who was doing all the things correctly, whatever that looks like. We didn't talk about our problems. We didn't have conversations around how to fix things. I think that codependency showed up a lot where we both did not want to hurt the other person so deeply that we just didn't talk about anything. So not only was I stewing in my own stuff, I know he was too. And that did not lead to feeling good on any level. And there was that desire to shield each other from pain. And unfortunately, in doing so, we just became so much more disconnected and on completely different paths.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how those things we do to avoid pain create so much more?
Right? It's funny how that works.
It's really funny. Our brains, our nervous system, our inner children think they're doing this like friggin' amazing thing for us, but they're actually just kicking the can down the road. But it's like, okay, I'm going to mix all my metaphors as usual. It's like they're kicking a snowball down the road.
Yes. It's like picking up other cans as it goes or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's put llamas in this mix. Let's just like all the metaphors at once, but like it just multiplies the suffering instead of actually alleviating it in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's one of those things where I think that, you know, when we first split up for that little bit in 2019, the codependency was so strong. And there was this voice in the back of my head that was like, I know it doesn't have to be like this, but I don't quite know how to get out of it. And having been in therapy for years, having sort of developed this level of self-awareness that I think I had at that point, I was like, why am I so stuck here? Right. Why can't I move through this? And finding your work and finding Anchored gave me the space to understand, okay, it's not that you can't do it. It's just maybe you don't have the right language. You don't have the tools. You don't have the understanding or the space to explore it. Right. And being able to do that gave me such a different lens on codependency as well, because as you always talk about, and we've talked about at length, this idea that codependency is a habit that you form. It's something that is practiced over and over and over again. It's something that's learned in childhood. And it's also a pattern that you can step out of. And I think prior to that understanding, I sort of felt like, well, this is just my lot in life. This is just kind of what I'm going to have to deal with. My relationships are always going to be like this. I'm always going to give too much. I'm always going to feel resentful. And I'm always going to feel like I don't quite have a voice in this room.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a common experience, right? Because we're really sold that story that it's an identification. You have to claim it in order to like somehow push through it and get to some other side, but you'll never get there because you identified with it. So you're effectively screwed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is you. This is your identity. This is who you are. Get used to it.
Get used to it. Yeah. Yep. Claim it. Like it's important to claim it, right? That's a vital, important first thing to do. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious what you got from Anchored that was different from what you'd gotten in therapy all those years.
I think the main thing was action items and sort of being able to take what I was learning and apply it in a way that felt sort of slow and steady and measured. And I'm a big advocate for therapy and particularly art therapy, which is something that I've been in for years and love it. And I think the pairing of the two from Anchored, understanding, you know, here's how you can build on what you already know. Here's where you can take things just a step further. And I think with therapy, sometimes it can get to a place where, you're digging up the past, learning all the things about why you are the way you are, why the family system you're in is operating the way that it is, why your relationship is functioning that way. And yet sometimes it doesn't feel like there's a lot of forward momentum on how to shift out of it. And that's what Anchored really did for me. It gave me the understanding of, okay, here's the next tiny little step that you can take to move in a different direction. And as somebody who has struggled with a lot of binary, black and white, all or nothing thinking in my past, being given the gift of, okay, well, just because it's not going to change overnight doesn't mean that it can't change just a little bit. And I think that was one of the things that I had never really understood before. And I had never really heard that in therapy. I had never really heard the slow and steady progression in a different direction. And that was totally mind-blowing to me of, oh, not only can I do this at a pace that feels good to me and I'm honoring my nervous system and where I'm at, but I also have a choice in the matter. I think sometimes in therapy, and I know this is true for me, and I'm pretty sure that I've heard other folks talk about this too, you can kind of just get swallowed up by all of it and just sort of feel like you have to accept it for what it is rather than accept it and.
Right.
And I think that and piece is what really I got from Anchored that totally changed the game for me.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to hear that. And yeah, as someone who's a huge fan of therapy myself, I mean, I love therapy, but yeah, I feel like I got to this point where it's like I had a stress, distress, and trauma PowerPoint that I could just play. And it's like, I know where all my issues come from. Here they are. Check out this PowerPoint. I made cool graphics. Look at that. But it wasn't helping me, like you said, to actually make boots on the ground, real change in my life, and particularly not sustainable change.
Yeah. Sustainability, I think, is one of the big ones in that, with that sort of all or nothing binary thinking of either doing all of it or nothing, there's a lot of, well, if you make a change, you're going to go for it. And that sort of gung ho mentality of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and figure it out. And then that lasts for what? A day, a week at most?
If that. Yeah.
If that. And being able to understand, okay, you're going to take 2 steps forward and maybe you'll take a step back and maybe then you'll take half a step forward. And then maybe you'll jump 7 feet ahead of you. It doesn't have to be linear and it doesn't have to make logical sense necessarily. But the fact that there's the ability to honor where you're at every stage. And I think one of the beautiful teachings that I learned from you too, is just being able to come back to yourself and ask yourself, where am I right now? What do I need right now? Because so much of codependency, people pleasing, perfectionism is rooted in other people's needs. And the sheer idea of, oh, wait, I'm allowed to have my own needs. Not even knowing what they are necessarily, because that's step 2. Step 1 is just recognizing, oh, wait, I'm allowed to need things.
Right.
The
world's not going to end.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that your needs can coexist with other people's needs and that you're not responsible for meeting somebody else's needs, especially when you haven't met your own. And I think understanding, again, how to very slowly but surely get to a place where I could understand what my needs are, get very real with myself of, what do I even value in this life? What do I even want to be doing? How do I want to be spending my time? Who do I want to be spending my time with? And coming at it from that lens to be able to say, okay, yeah, here's what I value. Here's what I prioritize. And then making moves to make that my reality, rather than being sort of a passive observer of the circumstances in my life.
Right. Yeah. Such huge transformations. I mean, truly forever life-changing transformations. What were the tools in Anchored? What were the skills? Like, what helped you get from there to here?
So a lot of them, the basic one, I think, was thought work, just kind of understanding my relationship to my own thoughts and the stories that I've told myself for years and years, and the things that were sort of both implanted in me from my upbringing, from society, and being given the tools of thought work and the thought work protocol to be able to look at my brain and all the things passing through it as sort of this neutral space, and understanding that just because you have a thought doesn't mean that it's true. Just because you think something doesn't mean you always have to think that way. And understanding how to, again, shift that slowly but surely, using bridge thoughts, using that tool of working your way toward the other side was hugely transformational for me. And another piece of Anchored that was really special was being able to witness other people's transformation. I think that's one of the big things that I wasn't necessarily expecting, because, when you enter a space and you enter a program, you're very sort of solo focused and thinking, okay, well, what am I going to get out of this? What am I going to do? How am I going to be in this world? And being in that space with other people who were experiencing very similar things, obviously very different circumstances across the board, but the unique thing of being able to watch somebody else be coached by you and see, oh, they may be in a completely different part of the country or a different part of the world. They have a very different life than I do. And yet these core issues are so universal that I can sit and watch them talk about it, cry about it, yell about it, dance about it. I can watch that and go, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And to see myself reflected back in that was something that I didn't necessarily expect, but was absolutely part of the transformation for me, was being able to witness that and witness other people and have other people witness me too. And just knowing that while you're dealing with things that can feel very isolating, that can feel like you're the only one who has to struggle through these things, you're not. And being given the tools like thought work and the space like I had inside of Anchored was absolutely what propelled me forward.
Yeah. Thank you for speaking to the power of the community. Because again, I think it's that we come into like healing work, whatever that means, so informed by the white wellness world and by white settler colonialist thinking, and exactly thinking that we have to bootstrap the whole thing and be in this isolated silo of like self-care, as though community care and allowing ourselves to be cared for a community was not the deepest self-care, right? And the deepest space for healing and growth. Yeah. So beautiful. So what was it like to be coached in that group, to talk about all these like sensitive, tender things with all these people watching?
I think I'm a pretty open book to begin with, but I know that not everybody is that way. I also, coming from a performing arts type background, I'm like, let's just put it all out there. Right. But I know there were times where I, clicked join to our Zoom sessions and I was not prepared. I just didn't quite know how it was going to go, or I didn't know what I was going to say. And there was that self-conscious little monster on my back going, what are you doing? And, your presence as a coach is so grounding and so calming that I was able to just drop in to that. And I think for anyone that's curious about what that's like, Victoria talks a lot about co-regulating and our nervous system and what it feels like to sort of be in connection with somebody else. And I think the beautiful way that you set up coaching inside Anchored, and how it's not where you're on Zoom with a bunch of faces and everybody's staring at you. you set it up so that, yeah, everybody's there and they're kind of in the audience in the background, but the only people on screen are you. It's you, the coach, and you, the client, right? It's us together. And knowing that just a chat away, somebody is watching and gleaning something from what you're talking about and being able to cheer you on and say, I see you and I hear you. It really does help ground you in the moment. I think that if it was set up in a different way where we were all on screen together, I don't know that I would have been as comfortable kind of pouring my heart out, even for someone like me who does that on the regular. But I think the nature of the way that you coach, in that not only are you helping people and your community sort of unravel what's going on and how to put the pieces back together in a way that works for them, but you're doing it from the lens of, and this is something that I always appreciated, the lens of like, where are you at? Meeting you where you're at. And there are times when you show up to coaching and all you can do is sit and across the camera from each other and just sob. Yeah. And there are times when all you can do is just verbal, like process, vomit all the words and get them all out of your brain and your body so that they're just out there. Right. And I think a lot of the misconceptions around coaching is that a coach is going to be there to tell you what to do. Right. A coach is going to have advice and they're going to have the answers and they're going to tell you, you have this problem, here's how to fix it. And that's not what it is. And that's absolutely not what it is, especially inside Anchored. It's, where are you at? Let's come there together and see how we can move our way through it. And I think that's what was so beautiful about being coached by you in that space, is that there was this energy of, you know your body, you know yourself, right. That empowerment, that encouragement of, I'm not, me, Victoria, I am not the be all end all, know it all of the world. I am a mirror. I am the person who is reflecting back to you what's coming out. And I can ask the right questions to guide you in a different direction. And that's what I took from it, and how I employ that now in my own coaching is, I'm not there to, to give anybody anything other than a reflection and the opportunity. And that's what was so special about being coached by you inside Anchored, is that I was able to see myself through your lens and then start making changes because you held that space.
Thank you, Molly. I'm honored by your words. I'm gratefully receiving them. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think, 10, 15 years ago, before working on my codependency, perfectionism, and people pleasing, I know, like, as a primary care provider, my energy was so different because I was so awash in my own codependent thinking still. Right. I wanted, in that context is my patients, but I think it very much applies to coaches. I think Anchored is, this kind of work should be core curriculum for everyone in all the helping professions. Because if we don't look at those themes within ourselves, sourcing our validation from others, which is how, we define codependent thinking, then we're looking for our worth in our clients. Did they like what I said? Did I ask the smartest question? Are they agreeing with me? Are they nodding along? Are they like shining me on, but I don't care because they're smiling, right? Do they like me? And with love, now I can say it's not my business if the people at Anchored like me. I see that their lives are changing, and that's what matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not about whether or not they're going to, leave you the best testimonial, or they're going to say, oh my God, Victoria is amazing. It's, how can I show up and be true to myself as a coach? How can I stay in my lane, stay in my practice, stay in my scope of work, and offer my observation, offer what I know, and do it in a way that is very mindful that you get to invite the person on the other end to receive it, and they may not, right? And I think there's that ego check as well of, you as a coach and me when I'm coaching, we can say things and it can totally not land.
Right.
But that's okay. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad coach or a bad person or any of it. It just means that we all have our own individual ways of absorbing information and our own preconceived ideas of things, our own lived experiences that color what each other say in different ways. So, yeah, to think about the idea of codependency as a coach and becoming codependent with your clients too is such an important one, because I think when I first started coaching and I was still doing the work that I was doing with you inside Anchored, I very much felt that way of, do they like me? Is this working? Is this okay? Can I say that? And now I feel much more grounded, much more able to listen and actively listen and do it in a way that's not, I'm going to listen so that I say the right thing. I'm going to listen so that I make sure that I heard you.
Right. Yeah. It's such a huge difference. And
Absolutely.
It's the ripple in and ripple out of everything in our lives, because the way you're doing one thing is the way you're doing everything. Right. Yeah, for sure. Such powerful work. Yeah. I'm thinking of all the folks in all the help, all the physicians, the NPs, the PAs, the social workers, all the folks in the helping professions who've gone through Anchored, and hearing, including the coaches. There's always a bunch of coaches every round, just how different their practice is, which is not what they were expecting. Right. Because most folks come in, they're like, my marriage, my relationship, my sense of self, my relationship with my kids or my parents, my family of origin, but don't think how this impacts, everything about your practice.
Yeah. And it informs just sort of how you move through the world in a general sense. And I think too, one of the greatest gifts that I was given was my relationship to patience and thinking about, and it's still one that I work on every darn day. But I think there's this piece of me that knows that the good stuff is coming.
Right.
And that the more, I'm going to get emotional talking about it, but the more that I know myself and the more that I trust that the work I've done for me is going to have that ripple effect, like you talk about, that it's all going to come back around, right? That I have to trust that what I put out will come back to me. And you can't do that when you're so solely focused on other people and what they're doing and thinking and saying and being and feeling, and giving myself the space to go, you know what? It's not a race. And I'm not trying to be anything other than myself. And the truest form of that is somebody that can take things very slowly and deliberately.
Right.
And savor it. And I was actually thinking about this past weekend. I went to visit some college friends, and my old college roommate was getting married, and I haven't seen these people in years. And, being with them and thinking about what I was like 5, 10, 15 years ago when we met and where I'm at now, it's just worlds apart.
Yeah.
And thinking about how your presence is a present, right? Being present with the people that you love and that you choose to be with is such a gift, not only to yourself, but to them. And I think about all the years that I spent so focused on trying to be something else, whatever that was in the moment, and thinking about what a gift it is to be able to drop into that true presence of experiencing whatever's happening in front of me and feeding off that energy of my own energy and other people's energy, and just sort of like being in that space. And when I think about codependency and people pleasing and all of those things that kept me in that sort of stuck place of not being able to be present, of always thinking about the next 10 things and trying to plan and meticulously make sure that everybody else around me was okay. In actuality, what I was doing was not helping to that end. I wasn't able to do those things because you can't. It comes from the inside out. Right. And so now on the other side of those things, and honoring, yes, those are the habits and the pieces of me that have developed over time, and they kept me secure in those moments the best that they could. And now I get to experience this, and I'm worthy of experiencing this. And it's so much better for me and everybody around me when I'm present, when I'm there, when I show up as me.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Number one. I'm thinking about the vital importance of somatics in this work, right? Because somatic practices in bringing us back into the body help us to source that safety we need internally to be able to show up in the world and not try to be the puppet master and the controller and the fixer and the martyr and the savior and the saint, and like to not be in all those roles, but instead to show up, like you said, from our full open heart and our authenticity. And giving from there, you talked about, like effectively being of service, right? And that everything you give out will come back. And there's a way that from our codependent thinking is that tit for tat. I'm going to take care of you, so you'll take care of me when I need it, right? It's like that constant game of like, who's doing what for whom, and we're keeping score around here versus what I'm hearing from you, which is that giving without obligation, giving because you want to. Well, I've also seen you become quite the maverick, the brilliant, amazing boundary setter. Like it's been amazing to see you be like, and then I set a boundary, and then I set a boundary, and then I set a boundary. Right.
Yeah.
And from that boundaried giving, we can be of so much service and can give so much from our overflow instead of from emptying our cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that same point of looking at where was my energy leaking before, and how was I sourcing my safety from elsewhere? And like you said, the somatic work, breath work, just grounding exercises, all the things that we learn inside Anchored, being able to understand my nervous system, understand why things were happening the way that they were happening, why I was having reactions to things the way that I was, and not demonizing it, but understanding it and saying, okay, well, in these moments, if there's a different path you'd like to choose, here's how to come back home to yourself in a way that feels good, in a way that's going to soothe you, rather than seeking that soothing from somebody else, because they're also human too. And they have their own stuff. And I think understanding and coming to learn and really come to terms with the fact that a lot of my life, I had been seeking somebody else to make me feel safe. And knowing now, as I sit here, fully knowing and believing that I create my safety and that I am safe with me, is the direct result of all of the work that we did inside Anchored, all of the coaching, all of the thought work, all of the somatics, being able to get grounded and real and present is what has allowed me to move in a different direction and be able to pay that forward. And that's what I think is, when I talk about presence, I think of that, right? Is that I get to be present with myself, and I get to be present with the people that I choose to surround myself with in a very different way. I'm not distracted. I'm not coming with an ulterior motive, like you said, right? That tit for tat, what do you owe me kind of a thing. It's a open heart, open mind. Here we are. Oh, I love that. My cheeks hurt from smiling right now. My cheeks hurt. Mine too.
Yeah. I mean, also, and I will add to in what you just said, I think it is, once we have that firm belief and knowing in our own capacity to create our internal safety, it's from there that we can co-regulate. And it's from there that we can ask for what we want and need, but without that old grasping.
Yes.
Right. So like, if I ask you like, hey, Molly, can we co-regulate right now? And if you said, no, I'm not available, I now trust that I have that internal strength and that internal love, and I've got my own back to be able to be like, cool, right? Let me go call Leah. Let me, borrow a dog from the neighbor.
Right? Yeah. And that's what you taught me too, of being able to trust your yes and trust your no, right? And knowing that when someone says no and when there's a boundary set, it doesn't have to mean anything about
Oh my
you.
God. Yeah.
Right?
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. And, being able to look at my life and the places where I was not boundaried, which was, spoiler alert, everywhere. I now can go, okay, well, the people on the other side of this boundary, they may not love it. They may not like that I'm not available for XYZ thing, but that's neither here nor there because it's what creates the safety within me. And so I need that boundary. I need that space. I need that time, whatever it is. And to be able to look at it from a space of, it's not that I'm being mean. It's not that I'm, saying no because I want to be a jerk. It's, I'm not available for that. Right. That's probably one of the best phrases that you taught me, that I'm not available for that. And it can be applied to so many things. And it can be an internal boundary for yourself too, right? Of, when you start hearing those thoughts pop up about how you should be doing something or how this would be the right way to accomplish something when you're going the other way, being able to say to yourself, you know what? I'm not available for that right now. I'm available for me in the way that works for me.
Yeah. I say that to my brain so often.
Yep.
So often. I'm like, brain, no, not available for that line of thinking. No, thank you.
Not today, honey.
I'm going to thought work it. Yep. Not today, honey. No thought work needed here. I just, I don't believe that line of thinking anymore. And I understand that my brain's just like pulling at the old card catalog in there of old thoughts, presenting them to me to see if I want to bite, but they do not.
Nope. No, thank you.
No, thank you. I gave it the office. Thank you. Oh my goodness. So what would you say, wonderful Molly, to someone who is having some nervousness or some trepidation about joining the program, who's like, I've never invested time, energy, money, anything in just me. And will it work? Well, all the nervous.
All the questions, all the nerves. Well, I can tell you that I was exactly in that same place and that Vic can attest to the fact that when I got off the call with her, she was like, yep, I know. Like, I know. And I just sat there thinking, how can I do this? And then I thought to myself, how can I not do this? Because if you're like me, you've probably spent a lot of time, energy, money, effort in making sure that other people have what they need to take care of themselves. And I had never done it either. I had never just said, this is a thing for me. Yeah. This is the thing that is next for me. And I'm somebody that very much gets those sort of quiet, intuitive hits where I just know that something is right. And that's what I felt when I got on my consultation call with you. But to those people that need to think it over or learn more or understand, just, I would say to you, give yourself what you need to make a decision that is in the best interest of the future version of you. Thinking about what things can be like on the other side, even if you don't quite believe that it's available to you yet, opening the door to the possibility can give you the opportunity to say yes to something that will change your life. And I always say this to anybody that asks me about Anchored and your work, Victoria. I say that it's the best decision I ever made. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. And that it is really scary to invest in yourself. It's really scary to say yes to something new. And you also can trust the process and trust that, there are people that have gone through this program that are saying the same things that I am and are on the other side of it, saying how transformational it is. And I think that's one of the biggest gifts is that you get out what you put into it.
Yeah.
And if you show up and you are there and you are ready to, even if it's terrifying, just take it all in, who knows what can happen for you.
magic can happen.
Yeah, it can. And it's scary and wonderful
Totally
and
scary.
heartbreaking and exhilarating and all of the things.
Yeah.
And if what you've been doing so far has not been working for you, who's to say this won't?
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think everyone listening should immediately follow you and your amazing work and sign up for all your everything because you're incredible. Before you share that, anything you want to make sure the good people know about your amazing transformation?
Oh, gosh, I think the last thing I'll say is just it's an ongoing transformation.
Sure.
It's a daily process of learning, unlearning, unpacking, rebuilding. And the best part of it is that it can happen on your own time. And that, like I said before, it's not a race and you're not in competition with anybody, even yourself. And that this work is so powerful. And to the point you made earlier, Vic, about the ripple effect, even if thinking of yourself and you're not quite sure, am I worthy? Am I worth this? Thinking about the ripple effect that it can have in your life and thinking about how that can kind of move through you and your spheres, give that a think too, because that can help put it in perspective a bit too.
It's a powerful reminder to zoom out for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So where can the amazing people find remarkable you?
They can find me on the Instagram at Molly Goodman Coach and on my little website at mollygoodman.com. I'd love to see you there.
Yay. Fabulous. Thank you again, Molly, for sharing your experience with folks. And thanks for being part of Anchored. And thank you for letting me be your guide and walk alongside you on this path. I am humbled, honored, and grateful.
Thank you. I'm more grateful than you know.
Thanks for listening, my love. If what Molly shared about her life before Anchored resonated with you, and if you want the kind of transformation and change and growth that she shared about her life and how far she's been able to come around her self-concept, her self-story, managing her mind, her relationships in dating, in life, at work, with her family, in love, I mean, it's just all so expansive. Like, it makes my heart feel so full to hear her talk about it. And if that does the same for you, if you're like, I'll have what she's having, then you're going to want to join us for Anchored, Overcoming Codependency. The next cohort of this small, intimate, when I say small, I mean 25, 27 folks outside max. So if you are looking for this kind of change, join us in this small, intimate, beautiful, amazing program. You will get somatic coaching. You will learn nervous system and polyvagal nerdetry, so much of it. But you know, the way I do, really broken down and taught through a lot of metaphor, because I love a good metaphor, and taught in a way that's really accessible and digestible. And you'll be part of the glorious community that you heard Molly speak about. And you'll get to really build deep and profound friendships with folks who really, really get it the way that only we can, right? Only folks who've been in this particular pit of despair can. Learn more and apply now at victoriaalbina.com/anchored. Can't wait to welcome you to the family. All right, my beauty, let's do what we do. Gentle hand on your heart should you feel so moved. And remember, you are safe. You are held. You are loved. And when one of us heals, we help heal the world. Be well, my beauty. Talk to you soon. If you've been enjoying the show and learning a ton, it's time to apply it with my expert guidance so you can live life with intention without the anxiety, overwhelm, and resentment, so you can get unstuck. You're not going to want to miss the opportunity to join my exclusive, intimate group coaching program. So head on over to victoriaalbina.com/masterclass to grab your seat now. See you there. It's going to be a good one.